Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Black Market Live, a very special edition of Black Market Live. This is our late night edition for all of us over here in the States. We're recording at as I said, a little later than usual because we have a very special episode today that not only transcends worlds, it transcends time zones. Joining me on the live stream are some of my favorite people and absolutely favorite collaborators on all things Massiverse, really. We have Mat Groom, we have Erica D'Urso, we have Igor Monti, and we have Mr. Massiverse himself, editor extraordinaire, Michael Busuttil. How are we all doing today?
I didn't see you there.
Yeah. Yes. Welcome. So for those who don't know and are seeing some of these lovely faces for the first time, Mat Groom, Erica D'Urso, and Igor Monti are, I would argue, the three main leads here on all things Inferno Girl Red. They are the co-creators of Cassia Costa and the stunning new graphic novel that just came out, actually, as of this recording yesterday. This has been a long journey and making of process that we've all kind of embarked on here. To kick things off, I want to kind of keep this casual, but Mat, I'm going to throw this over to you because, for several years now, I was thinking about this a little earlier today. Inferno Girl Red actually predates Radiant Black as something that, we were developing all of these kind of around the same time. But I remember I was actually at the coffee shop today where I was when you sent me the pitch for the first time and I read it. So it's kind of a little serendipitous, but
your life was changed forever.
I met all of you. So in a lot of ways it has. But Mat, why don't you jump in and talk about where this book came from?
It had its genesis in a few different places. As you said, it was a long time ago. I was thinking yesterday, it's probably like late 2018, early 2019-ish. So a long time. And probably one of the key sort of inciting incidents was that there was a post in a Facebook group for my local comic shop down here in Sydney. And it was someone asking about graphic novel recommendations for their niece. And they were saying, my niece really loves superhero movies. She's interested in getting into comics, but I don't really know what to recommend her. What would you recommend? And I sort of worked through those thoughts myself. And my first instinct was to say Ultimate Spider-Man, because that's where I first went to get into comics. It was a really fantastic introductory path for me at the time. But it is 20 years old now, and I don't know that it really reflects the teenage experience necessarily anymore. And there are great series like Miss Marvel that are relatively recent, but are very tied into Marvel continuity and things like the Inhumans. I didn't know if that would be the best place for a totally fresh reader to start. And DC was doing a bunch of really great YA graphic novels and still is, but they're all self-contained in their own little universes. So once you're done with one, there's really nowhere to go. So I was really struggling with what's the best thing to recommend. And it was at that point I was like, well, maybe we should just make it. Maybe we should try and create that thing that we want to be able to recommend. And then from there, it was sort of infusing my love of Power Rangers and Tokusatsu in general. And also, I really wanted to create something that felt like it reflected the teenage experience as it is currently, because I feel like it's a very unique position that young people are in now, and I don't know that many books really speak to that honestly and earnestly at the moment. So there was all of those goals, and then from there, I just had to find the people to bring it to life. And obviously you're not person number one, Kyle, because you edited Self-Made, my other Image book, and we had to assemble the team, and that took literally years.
It did. And what we're looking at here on screen for our audio-only listeners, I've pulled up the first couple pages here of what I can only describe as being... Actually, let's see if I can do this in 2-up mode. Just absolutely stunning artwork by Erica D'Urso and colorist extraordinaire Igor Monti here. Erica, as the co-creator of Cassia Costa, Inferno Girl Red, I remember when we first started talking about this. Sorry, I'm getting used to StreamYard still, so I'm realizing it's really big on my screen, and suddenly I can't see anything else. But Erica, when we first reached out to you, and actually, for the life of me, I can't remember the genesis of it. I'm not sure if maybe did Daniele Di Nicolo make a recommendation, or how we ended up crossing paths on this. But I'd be curious what your thoughts were as you remember them when the brief first came in over email, and the ideas of what this book could become.
I remember that I received a message from Francesco Manna, and probably it was him that suggested me to you. And
that makes sense.
I was like, oh, okay, maybe yes, maybe not. I will have another job opportunity. And in that time, I remember that the pandemic was just started, and in Italy we were in almost full lockdown already. So I lost some job opportunities because of what happened with Diamond, and I was without anything. So, okay, it's a job like another one. But when I read the pitch from you, I thought, okay, this could be really big. And I started to think what could become. And I didn't realize in the beginning that I would feel this project like completely mine, not working for characters already existing, but creating something new that's like my son.
Yeah. We like to. I like to joke around when we're talking about Radiant Black, and I always describe it as the book is not about me, but there's a lot of me in the book, and I would venture to go out on a limb, and I mean it's like that for every creator, but in particular in this little kind of indie superhero line that we all have here, I feel like that very much is true for these books. And watching from behind the scenes as Cassia has come to life, and Erica, your designs, I mean, the first emails that you sent with the designs, I remember Matt, Michael, and I all just went, whoa, there she is. I mean, because it's not just getting in an initial sketch, it's like your sketch was so specific, everything about Cassia, down to her, Matt, I'm going to butcher pronouncing it,
Vitiligo? I think.
There we go. You made so many specific choices up front, and that specificity is what I think makes everything work in what we do, but especially in this in this edition, in this Inferno Girl Red edition. We'll get through. We'll loop back and talk about design and maybe some of this genesis and more specificity. But I want to talk Igor of all of this. Here, I'm actually going to go back to our image presentation there. Let's see if I can get everybody. There we go. So Igor, storytelling's great. It's very important. Comics are a visual medium, but when you could do something in black and white versus you could do something in full Technicolor, kaleidoscopic Technicolor, I think as we are all looking at this artwork, I think it's probably no surprise to hear that we very much prefer the latter. Igor, you came on this project towards the end of our prep as we were getting ready to go to Kickstarter. But again, it was one of those instances where from page one that you sent in, it was like, oh, holy cow, like this is it. And also, full credit to Erica. It's the style that Erica had been talking about as we were trying to put all of this together, and it took a little while to find. But as Erica once described it to me, Erica, I think you said you described it as flat shadows. And really, as we kind of dove in and found kind of like the cell shaded look, and I would just love to hear you talk about some of your influences and when the project first came up to you. I believe actually it might have been Daniele who recommended you to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where that, and I had seen your Power Rangers work and loved it. But when we first started talking about this, what were your feelings about the genesis of this, what this project might become?
So I was super excited the first time you asked me to work on this series because my tokusatsu is the tokusatsu style is my style is the exaggerated colors, the super shiny effects, and that kind of things are the things that I love to do, and they were the kind of things that I was watching when I was young. So uh, I love to make this style of colors because I can do my craziness and try to raise the bar in every panel, and since your enormous background in the film industry, I think the colorist is like a DOP, so he's like a director of photography because it's important the emotions to make the emotions more visible because it's not a film. So if you read a comic book, you need to read the story to watch the drawings, but the colors are important because if you use a wrong color, you might feel another feelings
Emotion.
that is not supposed to be. So it's important to work on colors in the right way with the art as well.
So Erica, touching on that a little bit, when you started seeing, I'm just going to pull up a few pages here, things like this in the book, and coming back in color, what do you think, as an artist and a storyteller, what makes the combination and the collaboration between an illustrator and a colorist work? Or what do you look for? What do you look for when you're finding a colorist collaborator to work on your lines?
The thing is that until now, I never had choice of my colorist. So my pages can come back in a way I like, or maybe not, and I have no power on it. But I had the luck to find Igor as colorist. We have many things in common regarding our preferences and what we watch or read. So I felt like that the pages came back better than I could expect or imagine, and this is great because it sometimes is seems like he can read my mind. And other times he can make them even better, because I'm imagining in some way, and when I can see them, I say, wow, this is way better than what I thought in the first time.
So, Michael, the page that we have pulled up here is a really it's the first reveal of Cassia Costa's form as Inferno Girl Red during her first transformation. In particular, I'm looking at there's some really really nicely integrated text here. Wondering if you could talk a little bit, since she's not here, about Becca Carey, who letters the majority of our books in the Massiverse, and maybe just also kind of kick that over to the design front, because on this one, you did quite a bit of work on the book, but it also was in a slightly different capacity, thanks to the other design team that came onto this.
Yeah, I'll start by saying that Becca is the best. No disrespect to the rest of you, Becca is my favorite person that I work with. Just an immense talent. And I think, Matt, this was something that, these in particular, was something that I think we added quite late in the game, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think actually this one was there from pretty early in the script, but we added the one for the Griffin later as a kind of pair to it.
That's right. And yes, and there's a third one that I don't remember if that was there or not off the top of my head.
It was not.
It was not, yeah.
Yeah, and so, I think Matt and I have talked a lot elsewhere about our deep love for your, Kamen Rider announcement voice that says things like, a jump to the sky turns to a rider kick. And it's like, yeah, that's sick as hell. How do we do that here? What does an announcement voice look like when you don't have voice? Mm-hmm. And so we tried a couple. I think this was like Becca's first or second pass on these. Mm-hmm. I think we gave a couple of little notes, but I have a distinct memory, Matt, of you being like, I don't know how to tell Becca what we want. And me being like, you just go to YouTube, find a compilation video of Kamen Rider announcement voices, and put that in the email. And just say, watch 5 minutes of this, and go for it. Make that happen. And she did. Look at that. Best letterer in the world.
I think that's Igor was saying earlier, it's just about the emotion of the scene and translating that. And I think that's something I've learned a lot through this project is, I don't have the skills of a colorist or an illustrator or a letterer, absolutely. But if I can communicate what the emotion needs to be, then everyone else on the team gets it and can then do that. And I'll have no idea what the actual execution of that will be, but I can trust that I'm just here's what the moment feels like. You do what you think is best. And that has brought about everything great about this book, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, on that note, to the degree that when we do notes, it is very often us being like, oh, didn't quite convey that, exactly what we want. Let's tweak it a little and try and just really dial it in and get it exact. Mm-hmm. And then, yes, I design a lot of the Massiverse books, but secretly, at the same time as writing this book, Matt was working for the best design agency in Australia and one of the best design agencies in the world. And so brought them on to design Inferno Girl Red, which was, the book speaks for itself, right? I don't think I need to talk about, this book looks real good. It's a real good book.
It does.
Yeah.
And actually, I have the trade paperback cover up on screen right now. But I also have it physically here, and you can see as I turn it from side to side in my window, a little bit of a sheen difference. This might be, Michael. I'm gonna go full screen here. Actually, there's so many buttons, y'all. This might be I will just straight up say it. This is my favorite implementation of spot gloss that you have done thus far. Can you describe to people what exactly that means when I say spot gloss?
I can. So the trade was a lot of fun for the people designed the hardcover edition of Inferno Girl Red. And then just because of some sort of deadline stuff, couldn't quite make it happen on the trade paperback. So I came in and just took all of the systems and layouts and stuff that they had built and just squeezed it all down a little to make it fit a little better. So a spot gloss is, and I got mine here as well. If you have a trade, if you have any of the Massiveverse trades, we do it on every trade, you will see that some parts of it are matte, so they're not shiny, and some parts of it are shiny, they're gloss. And, you know, we have options when we send these books to print. We could do them all shiny, or we could do them no shiny, or we could do them some shiny. And we go some shiny every time because it just looks so good.
As Brandon D has put it in the chat, that spot gloss, and then I don't know how do you pronounce those?
It's fire.
It's just fire.
It's fire.
It's just fire. There we go. Okay. Yeah, it's the visual that you know.
We weren't gonna do a spot gloss on this book cover until, like, truly 2 days before I sent this book to print. Mm-hmm. And for a reason that is so dumb that I won't even say it. Like, we had a thought about why it wouldn't work, and we all just were like, "Yep, it won't work. We'll just flood gloss the cover. It'll all be shiny." And then 2 days before, I'm prepping these files to send them to Image to go to the printer, and I just said to Matt, I think we should do a spot gloss. And Matt said, "Yep." And I said, "Oh no, now I have to paint the spot gloss layer. There goes my afternoon. That's 4 hours in Photoshop painting around the edge of each one of these characters."
The hardest spot gloss you've done with all the shards and things like
Nope.
that? No, okay.
Nope, because the shards, thank you, Erica and Igor, are just perfect little triangles. That's 3 clicks in Photoshop. That's easy. Wait until you've seen Abel painting fire and having to work out how a spot gloss goes around that. That's a spot gloss that I don't want to do.
The first one we did was on Radiant Black Volume 1, and I remember looking at, like, zooming in on Marcelo's painting, it's a digital painting for that first cover, and all the just gorgeous, soft, fluffy clouds, and thinking, how the hell are you gonna feather this and make this work? And somehow it always feels like a magic trick to me when it comes back, because especially with printing these days, even on the digital, like, web platform printing that so much of comics uses, the spot gloss is so rarely misaligned. Like, there's rarely registration errors with it, and I think it really does just take things kind of to this whole other level. Speaking of whole other level, because one of the things I want to talk about today gets into some of our design stuff, there is a whole other edition of this book. Matt, can you talk a little bit about what our approach was with this series? And you know what, I realized I didn't do a very good job up front in describing what this book actually is. Maybe you could give the quick little elevator pitch and talk about the genesis with Kickstarter, what we put together, and maybe I can even give people a little peek here of it.
Sure. Okay, so elevator pitch for Inferno Girl Red. So Cassie Acosta has been traveling the country with her mother, bouncing from city to city, because of something that happened in the past that has meant that their life has been really hard and her mother has never been able to hold down a job. But they get a chance at a new life when Cassie gets invited to a very cool, prestigious school in a very cool city called Apex City that's kind of like a near future utopia. They've figured a lot of stuff out, and it's just a lovely place to be. So Cassie thinks that this is going to be her life turned around. She's on a brand new track. There's so much opportunity there. But very soon after she arrives, the whole city is ripped out of their home dimension and cast into darkness. And it's going to be consumed if somebody doesn't do something to stop it. And Cassia turns out to be the person with the potential to stop it when a magical bracelet comes into her life and gives her the power of the legacy hero Inferno Girl Red. But that power is powered by belief, and Cassia hasn't had a lot to believe in. So she has to find a way to find that belief, save the city, protect the people that she loves, and make sure that things don't get any worse. And that's on top of being a teenager and going to school and making new friends and all that sort of stuff. In terms of the Kickstarter edition, we wanted to make sure that the people who backed us at the start, the Kickstarter backers, got the best possible version of the story. Were rewarded for investing in something that was brand new and unproven. So we did a massive hardcover. So it's oversized. It's bigger than the trade in dimensions. It's a gorgeous hardcover stock. And it has something in the order of like 60, 70 pages of special features, including so much concept art that Erica did. A really cool process section where we show you my script and then Erica's pencils and then Igor's colors and then Becca's letters with commentary from everyone on sort of what they bring to that stage of the project. There's a cover art gallery. There's a very in-depth explanation of a fictional sport I invented for very little reason.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me pull that one up. That's my favorite one.
That,
Is it this one? No.
A little further. There, yep, there it is, whole ball. Yes. So
I will always remember Matt sending me a message being like, how do you 3D model things? And me just being like, oh, okay, all right, something's going on here, and I have been drawn into it.
And you're going to probably have to fix it.
I didn't have to fix it. Matt did this all on his own.
So proud of you, Matt.
I downloaded a bunch of different 3D modeling softwares that were all builders like, this is the one for beginners, no prior knowledge required. Spent a few hours on each of those and realized I could not do a single thing. And I ended up finding what was, it's not called CAD for babies, but it's basically CAD for babies. It's like for little children who want to like play around with CAD a little bit. I was like, perfect. So I opened that up and managed to laboriously construct this diagram.
It's worth mentioning that this sport appears in maybe 2 pages of this book.
Yeah. But, it's world building, man. You got to make sure all this stuff works.
And again, for those on audio, we're showing off some of these pages in the back matter pages from the Inferno Girl Red Kickstarter, hardcover edition here. This actually, there we go. I found it. So this was the process section that you were just talking about, Matt, where we're seeing layouts to inks to colors and to letters. The other thing that's in here that I love quite a bit, and as I alluded to before, is all of these wonderful iterations of design that Erica, Erica, this is like a dream thing for me on a book always, and so rarely does it happen where you actually have enough, like, you have back matter material that actually shows the genesis of where you started and then where you ended up with the character, and you can actually see, I feel like you can see Cassia and ultimately Inferno Girl Red kind of just like come to life before your eyes here. This page in particular, you can see the different iterations. Can you talk to me a little bit about the design process? Maybe we can talk about Inferno Girl Red first, and then talk about Cassia.
Yes. So at the beginning, I was a little in trouble because I admit I never watched or read about tokusatsu. So it was a trial and error for me. And at that time, I was also in a co-working space with other artists like Di Nicuolo and Valeria Pavoccia, and asked them some advices like, you drew Power Rangers, can you help me to understand how what is it? For example, a thing that I didn't know and that Matt told me was that the suite is like magical, so we don't have to see the folding of the clothing.
Yep.
So I was trying to understand how I can represent a costume like something magical. So I try to reduce everything to a second skin and then working on it.
So what we have on screen here right now is, I think, where we ultimately landed with Cassia. But let's circle back for a second here, and let's actually, or sorry, I meant Inferno Girl Red. But let's circle back to Cassia herself. Erica, what went into your thought process for designing Cassia? And I would love to hear down to even the NASA t-shirt.
So at first, when I read the pitch, I don't know why, but I thought, oh, it would be really cool if Cassia would have a vitiligo. And this is one of the features I added in the beginning.
It was the first email, I think.
Yes, and since I didn't want to say, okay, this is the one, I added other options. And I thought about her like a kind of rebel girl, but not really a tomboy. How can I say? And so I proposed various ideas of hair with short hair, and I thought she's really practical. She's a female figure that think about life with feet on grounds. So I thought that could be nice to give her a design that is practical, even with her hair and with her clothing.
It's so funny. There's like, we've designed for the Massiverse now a whole lot of different characters. And sometimes it takes passes and notes and changes and edits. Like, you want to get it right, and sometimes everyone's not on the same page right at the start. And then sometimes the first email you get is these three, and there she is.
Yep.
And it's just like, that's what she looks like in the book. That's her. In the first thing it's like, sometimes it just comes through and it doesn't need any more changes.
And as you can see here, this is actually, if I zoom out a little bit, this is actually kind of our finished model sheet of, you can see here even Erica's laying out initially her thoughts on, color swatches for Igor. And I also want to bring up here, in transition to, it's not just Inferno Girl Red and Cassie Costa who populate this book. We have all sorts of other characters. Matt, talk to me a little bit about the friends and allies of Inferno Girl Red, and maybe from there, Erica can touch on Lillian and is it Harriet? Yeah, Lillian.
Yeah.
Lillian and Harriet, and what went into them.
I think like any book you work on, the supporting cast is incredibly important because they're going to be the people that help your main character on their journey, and the people that they are will then shape your main character. And I guess I was talking a little bit earlier about sort of trying to reflect the experience of being a teenager and sort of like trying to find your place in the world authentically. Harriet and Lillian were both really key, I think, in filling out that more complete picture of what that's like now. And they're three very different girls, but I think in a lot of ways they are like their own little trinity. Like they complement each other in really important ways. And we haven't seen too much of Lillian just yet. She has a decent appearance in sort of towards the end of this book, but her involvement will be much greater as we move forward. And it's very much about how do these three come to rely on each other and help each other grow. And when things start to go really bad, how is their connections and how they interrelate going to be the thing that sort of like draws them through and pulls them together. Harriet was someone who, in a lot of ways, like she needed to have the belief that Cassia doesn't early on. In some ways, she's kind of like a model for Cassia, like someone to sort of like inspire her. And Lillian, in another way, is kind of like a reflection of Cassia, someone who's very practically minded and is very interested in like the tangible details. But I think in both of them, they both have their own weaknesses that Cassia can help mitigate. And I think as we move forward, how these three interrelate is going to be, really important.
So then, actually, let's talk a little bit about, I don't want to spoil anything here, but in particular, Matt, there are some really cool designs here for some of our adversaries. I'd say in this instance specifically some creatures. What am I looking at here? And again, for audio listeners, it looks like a four-legged animal with both a snout and glowing blue skeletal energy. That is one of the coolest looking creature designs I've seen. It's like a smoke dog kind of.
Yeah, I mean, we've had different names for these things as the process has gone on. I think for a long time they were just called entry monsters. I've started calling them shards of entropy. That may sort of hint a little bit more towards their true nature, but they're kind of manifestations of darkness that sort of reach out into the world and try and find people with potential, people that can sort of like help lead the way through the darkness and snuff them out. So we wanted something that felt primal, that communicated that these things on their own don't have like true cognition. They don't like have personalities. It's something a bit more primal, but they're also terrifying because they're so pure in their intent. So it's very kind of like very metaphorical idea in a lot of ways. So I sort of had to like, again, it's that feeling thing, right? I sort of said to Erica, here's the feeling of them. And then you tell me what you think they look like. And yeah, so much of this was brought to life by Erica.
So I've pulled up some art here of this little guy showing up for the first time in the book, which is kind of a really perfect segue here. So Igor, so much of this book and actually what we were talking about up front with Erica about specificity and specific choices, so much of this book is just the entire book is filled with incredibly specific choices that have been thought out kind of at every turn. The ones in particular that are very close to my heart are the color choices, especially as they relate to accentuating storytelling. Wondering if you can talk to me about your approach as you come into a book and you're looking to both create, distinct sequences, but also enhance what's going on emotionally underneath everything.
Okay, I always work on several pages at the same time because I can't just work on a page and then close the page and pass to the next one because it's always about sequences. No, so if you change colors in the same sequence, you might break the momentum. So it's really important to think about, okay, now is starting in a new sequence. So, okay, it's morning, so change the color palette and let's help the reader to understand that the scene is different, has a different mood, maybe different characters. So it's I actually I work on a comic book like 100% like a film for me. For need to work on sequences to isolate them, and sometimes I do something crazy that might breaks the ice, but
Well,
but
let's drill down on that, because the page I have up here is the first introduction. It's a flashback of an earlier Inferno Girl Red, as well as Cassia's mom, who has a relationship with that earlier Inferno Girl Red, or had a relationship with her. The reason I'm flagging this sequence, though, is because it's up front. It's one of the first. It's like within the first 4 pages. I think this is page 4 of the book right now. No, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, page 4 and 5. On page 5 alone, let's see, 1, 2, 3. On panel 4, you are trying something here that it's really cool, because I know where it ended up evolving to later in the book, but can you talk to me about your color choices and your palette shift choices, specifically in panel 4 here on the right-hand page, and what you're looking to accomplish there? Because I think this is so cool.
Sure. There, it was supposed to be like a freezing moment. Okay, so like it's they are fighting, and there's that kind of slow-mo moment in the cinema to understand that particular moment of the kicks of that kind of things. So for me, on this book and probably on the next one for this kind of things, was super interesting to try this inverted mode with switching and swifting colors. Okay, to try to separate that specific panel from the entire sequence, but without make it out of context. Okay, so is a different panel, but if you see in the globally is consistent with the style, with the mood of the sequence. Because for me, the most challenging thing in a comic book, especially for the colorist, for me, is to be consistent. So if I do something on a sofa, for example, on every sofa on on Inferno Girl Red has a particular texture, nothing fancy, but is the same. And if I do something, I have to do that kind of things for the entire book, even is hundreds of pages. Same for the flashback, for example, the flashback sequence. Erica used the black lines between the panels, and I just used some grids, okay, with the colors to exaggerate the moments, and it's just about consistent for me, and sometimes it's quite difficult.
Well, it's I mean, it's a sight to behold, for starters. What I have pulled up here for the audio only crowd, I'm actually going to load up a page a little later too, because this one is like, so this is now 45 pages into the book. And what Igor's talking about is specifically, there are these almost like, there are these panels that are, it's like you've cut to another angle of what's happening, and suddenly the colors have completely inverted. So Igor shifts to really secondary colors for these really heightened moments. Like they do feel like snapshots, like freeze frames. And there's actually this one in particular you can see on page 40, I think it's like 47 here. That final shot of Cassia Inferno Girl Red. I mean, that is that is the trippiest palette to do for what is essentially, I mean, the intention is helping us to get inside Cassia's uncomfortableness in this moment, but it's such it is such a huge stylized kind of approach. Erica, when you see something like this, this is very much a leading question because I know where some of the influences come from for both Eric and Igor. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what you both love about things like anime, things like Studio Trigger, things that I haven't seen brought to comics very often. And like these little examples that we're talking about here in color are those are instances of this. But in the approach and obviously the aesthetic influence that we have here, what part does something like anime play in where you're drawing from?
Okay. This is a little tricky to express because I wanted to give here something that in the past and many people said was a negative thing, because when I first tried and attempted to enter in the comic industry in Italy, especially, I wasn't good enough because I had some heavy manga and anime influences, and for someone they were negative things. So I had a hard time to begin, because for the for example, for French industry, I was too American, and for Italian industry, I was too manga, and for American, I was too naive, maybe, because I was still trying to find something in the middle that was mine, but also that could have these influences without being too much or too less. I hope it's clear, because I'm not used to talk about this stuff. And so in Inferno Girl Red, since it's partially mine as a creator owned, I wanted to insert what I liked without feeling guilty or lacking in something. And I hope it's shown because all I wanted was to feel it with what I love and what makes me passionate about it.
Well, I can tell you, Erica, I've shown the book to quite a few people, and in particular, there's a coffee shop that I go to quite a bit in Los Angeles, and there are these two young kids that come in with their parents, and they are superhero obsessed. The young boy is I believe he was 7, and his little sister was 4, and she was his shadow, and they just love superheroes. And I was showing them colors as they would, or art as they would come in, and to see her eyes light up. It was my favorite part about getting the hardcovers in early was that I was able to give one to well, I'm not going to say the names, but to these the young kids, and to start them off right. They had such a blast with this book, And so much of it is as I said before, in my opinion, the specificity, and there's something that happens later that I can't show because I don't want to spoil it, but there's some stylization that you and Igor play with regards to Harriet and Lillian that is my favorite thing I've seen in a comic, and absolutely not something that would ever fly at Marvel or DC. But it's you, and it's your personalities on full display, and that comes across, even just flipping through the book. So I very much feel like you absolutely delivered and knocked it out of the park. So I also want to flag for everyone here, because I'd like to jump into taking some questions. We have a ton of great comments in the chat. But first, this book that I've been showing here, this is, as we said, the Kickstarter edition of the Inferno Girl Red Volume 1, Book 1. It is packed to the brim with incredible back matter, scripts, breakdowns. Like, this is the thing that, as the kid who grew up on DVD special features and loves the behind the scenes and the immersive kind of how it was all made, this is a treasure trove of that. But the Kickstarter passed quite some time ago. Obviously, it's already out in the world. So if you missed out, well, then you missed out, right? Except if you're watching this live stream right now or listening to the audio version of this, then I've got some good news for you. The good news is that we still have a few copies of the Inferno Girl Red Kickstarter hardcover available. We have been actually selling them through the Black Market Narrative Shopify store and our newsletter. So the reason I'm flagging it right now, though, is because unfortunately that is not going to last much longer. So this edition of the Kickstarter hardcover, we do still have a few copies left. They're currently at our distributor partner out in Seattle, and we are going to actually kind of put them back in the vault. And by put them back in the vault, we don't have many left. So until Tuesday, you have until Tuesday, the 20th of June. So that's 4 days from now, to order your copy if you want one. I don't know the next time this will be available, if it will be available again in this form. So highly, highly recommend snagging your copy now. You can go to blackmarket.la and click on our store link there, and go right to the Black Market Shopify where the hardcover is. I'll also, in the audio version, I'll include a link in the show notes. But I just wanted to flag that for everyone, because seriously, like, it's my favorite book we've put out. Like, I'm sorry to everyone else in the Massiverse, but this has been such a long labor of love, and to see it come out in such a stunning edition is like, I just want people to experience it, honestly. So
I think with Erica and Igor's art, like, you have to see it that big.
Yes.
It's not justice to see it in a smaller format. So,
and it's a lay flat. The whole book lays flat. It's like we went all out on this is the best way to describe it. So what do y'all think? How would you feel about taking a few questions here from the chat?
Take some questions, yeah.
Awesome. So let's see what we've got here. Scrolling back through. First up, we've got from Common Sense: did Dr. Caro's Inferno Girl Red form take inspiration from Superman? Because I noticed the cape and triangle symbol.
So I can say it's a volunteer inspiration, but probably I did it unconsciously, because I was looking for straight lines, so triangles and polygonal lines to give a more sharp design.
Mm-hmm.
And I added the cape because we were in the 90s, and I was thinking what could give her this vintage look. So I added the cape but not so long because as The Incredibles, it was that one.
I have to say, it's so funny, Erica, to hear you say that, like, as you came on the project, you didn't know what Power Rangers was or how to draw it. Because that costume in particular is like a perfect Sentai suit. It's like,
Yeah.
I might like it more than the regular Inferno Girl Red suit. That page where she appears is just like, yeah, tell me more about that one, please. I love it so much.
Actually, you know what? I should probably show this real quick because as a part of that Kickstarter hardcover that's still available, we also had another thing that printed with that edition, something very special. And it's the Inferno Girl Red Ash Can that was a Kickstarter exclusive. This comes with, again, while supplies last year, it comes with the hardcover. Matt, what is this?
This is an 8-page ashcan. So ashcan is a format that was originally designed for like handing out at conventions to show people your work. And it's a very short, but I think impactful and cool story set in the time of the previous Inferno Girl Red. And also Cassia's mother, Anna, when Anna was younger. And we get to see them interact. We get to see Apex City a few decades ago. And we get to see more of this previous Inferno Girl Red in action. It's drawn by Valeria, one of our frequent co-contributors. And I think it's so cool the way it came out. It's just like a different way of approaching a flashback in the sense of it looks like it was from a while ago, but it doesn't have that, like, it's not like sepia toned or anything. So if you want any more background on the world of Inferno Girl Red, that's definitely a cool one to pick up.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see. From Chiara, Erica, continue on your way. You have a great style.
That's
I
not
hope
a
all those
question,
people-
but I'll allow it.
I hope all those people that told you that your style isn't right feel very silly about themselves right now.
From the Young Link Society, that is such a frustrating experience, being rejected due to influences. Sorry you had to go through that, Erica.
Let's say I found the right people.
There you go.
So it's also thanks to this team that I could feel safe expressing myself freely.
Be
So
the
thank
real
you.
Erica.
Let's see. So from Daniel, one day hopefully we will get everything Massiverse in hardcover and some more IGR hand orange covering eyes.
I'm so tired, Daniel. Daniel, Daniel,
Tiago
please,
agrees.
I'm so tired.
When is book 2 coming? I want more, guys. And I don't know how do you pronounce that one, Matt?
Book 2?
Is that a smiley face?
Oh, the smiley face.
Yeah.
It's just
Oh,
a smiley face. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can just freestyle those ones. They're meant to be interpreted.
Oh,
yeah.
That's helpful.
I would want more Inferno Girl Red too. I do want more. So I'm with you. I feel the same way. Stay tuned. It is our desire to continue this world for as long as we possibly can. And Inferno Girl Red is never very far from our thoughts. And you may have to wait less time than maybe you think.
Once again, from Common Sense, I bought Inferno Girl Red t-shirts. Great designs.
Hell yeah. That one Michael did is so cool.
I was just going to say, Michael, talk to me about the design of the t-shirt.
I woke up one morning with a design for a t-shirt in my head, and I went, I got 10 minutes. I'll do it. And I did it, and I sent it to Matt, and Matt was like, yes, I would like to buy that, please. And so we put it up on the shop, and now you can buy it. That's all the story.
So I'm going to pull it up here for everyone because we actually have, when you go to the blackmarket.la site, you'll see that we actually have 2 tabs under the buy. Is it the buy tab? Is that what it is? The shop tab. We have 2 buttons, merch and rarities. So the rarities tab is where you can get the hardcover and all sorts of other exclusive and limited edition, merch drops that we do, foil editions of no one covers, things like that. but the tab with the other tab for merch is our threadless store, and so we actually put together quite a bit of quite a few T-shirts for and hats and things like that with threadless for the entire Massiveverse. But this Inferno Girl Red shirt design in particular that I've just pulled up here, gosh, isn't this cool?
So cool. Love it.
Listen,
Can't believe that
sometimes
just came to you in.
Sometimes design is spending 6 hours scrolling through fonts trying to find the right one, and sometimes Jesus Christ delivers you design in a dream. It's just you can never tell which one it's going to be until it happens.
And there's so many different clothing and robe options for said dream. I don't know what time is it. Sorry, it's after midnight. My brain is. My brain
I think
is
we're
done here.
pretty close to time, right, guys?
We are. Let's see. A few more questions here before we wrap up here. Let's see. What do you recommend to people? This is from the Young Link Society as well. What do you recommend to people getting into comics publishing? Also, do you recommend that smaller writers get newsletters?
I recommend writers start a Power Rangers podcast with their friends.
Matt, we can't recommend this to people. We simply can't.
That's how I got into comics. That's how
Yeah,
I
I mean,
Kyle.
listen, it does for us have a 100% success rate, but I don't think we can, in good conscience, recommend it.
That's true. Yeah. I guess like there's no guaranteed path to success in any sort of artistic field, but make stuff that you love and find people that share your sensibilities and make stuff with them, and then try and share that with as many people as possible is the only sort of generalized advice I think that's kind of worthwhile.
Mm-hmm. Igor, as a colorist, I don't hear colorists. We hear writers, we hear artists, we hear the stories of how they get started. How did you get started as a colorist?
I've started making the assistant for colorists like Walter Bayamonte on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I think it might be the best way to learn from professionals and from professional artists, and how to approach on a table, on a page, and all the pipeline of the comic book industry, specifically for comics, for comic book colorings. So this way was worked for me. So I've learned from others, just making flats and helping with shadows sometimes, and trying to understand how to approach a page.
That's awesome. So how do the Inferno Girl Red powers get transferred? Reading Supermassive 2023, it seems like they leave the original user when they, spoiler alert, but
When something bad happens, yeah.
Kyle, it's been on screen for a full minute now. It's way too long.
yeah, I should have.
That's fine. It was a month
I read the
ago.
first
we
two
can talk
sentences.
about it. Yeah. But the rest of the question was, but Dr. Caro is still kicking, so is there a reason as to why? Yeah, there absolutely is a reason as to why. There are a handful of ways the powers can, well, the bracelet can leave the person that it's bonded with. That way is one of them. And there are one or two other ways, and we'll learn more about that, and that is going to be important in the future. Something that we've been able to do with the Supermassive crossovers that I've really enjoyed is elements of the world that we've already established, we can flesh out or give you like previews into them in those Supermassive. So you don't have to read Supermassive to understand Inferno Girl Red at all. They're not required reading, but if you want a bit of a sort of like a preview into the future, oftentimes into the world of Inferno Girl Red, it's a good idea to check into Supermassive.
A nerd named Mark says, start a Massiveverse podcast, you say. And I don't know how you say that one either. But chin
Thinking
scratching,
face.
thinking fan, okay.
Yeah.
Michael, would that work for breaking into comics?
I want to be clear that breaking into comics is like, you know, the puzzle in Hellraiser that when you open it, it makes the, like, you can only solve it one way once, and then you have to solve it a different way the next time. So I cannot guarantee anything will work for anyone.
It's also kind of like the box.
Also, lots of demons show up in your bedroom.
And it's kind of like the pain box from Dune, where you just kind of hurts all the time. Yeah, that's also.
I agree. I totally agree.
It starts hurting and it doesn't stop.
Something like a Pandora box. Okay.
Yeah.
Be careful what you wish for.
Exactly. Well, what do we all think? Does anyone else have anything they want to touch on here? You know what?
I do. Hey guys, I really like this book.
Hold on, real quick. Sorry, Michael. We got one more question. I think that is pretty cool. What's the difference between writing your book, Inferno Girl Red, and writing a big crossover that features Inferno Girl Red, like Supermassive?
It's not actually that different because they're both big collaborations. Eric and Igor are the co-creators on Inferno Girl Red, and everything that I do is done in collaboration with them. So I'll send them the outline and get thoughts, and then send them the script and get thoughts, and they'll change stuff as I go, and I'll change what I do to adapt to what they do, so that it feels like a sort of a synthesis of all of our different ideas. And then for Supermassive, it's like that, just with other writers. Like, everyone's chucking in ideas, you're being inspired by what other people are saying, and then you just have to figure out a way to bring all the different pieces together to make it work. So it's actually not that different. Supermassive is a little more complicated because there's different books that all have their own histories, and because we sort of write Supermassive ahead of time, we have to figure out where those books are going to be and then get all that sorted. So a little bit more complicated, but it's basically the same sort of thing. It's just jamming with your friends and doing cool stuff.
And actually, speaking of Supermassive, I'm going to show this here. So we just got our copies of this in. Erica and Igor, I'm not sure if you've seen this finished version. This is a reprint of last year's Supermassive, but we did it on some thinner paper, so it's a little bit less expensive. It's also stapled. It feels like a magazine. But the cool part, and why we did it, is because the entire back we added another 12 pages of back matter in the back of the book. Okay, it's an introduction to the Massive verse and breakdowns on every one of the Massive verse.
Other way.
Yep, thank you.
I really like the magazine style. Yeah.
So it's breakdowns on all of the books, when they first came out, what you need to know about each, who the creative teams are on everything. Okay, and then at the end, we also have a checklist of all the trade paperbacks in the Massiveverse that you can collect, and even a little ad on the back with a QR code. Well, actually, I'll talk about that in a second. An ad on the back that points readers to our ongoing series and the massive-verse.com website, where you can go as a hub to find all of our stuff. The other really exciting thing, though, is this version. There's another version here that has a QR code that will send you directly to massive-verse.com. This version you're going to be hearing about a little bit more in the next few months, because it's going to be tied to some fun things we're doing with conventions this summer. But I've already said too much for after midnight on a Friday morning here. But yes, let's see. Oh, we're getting... Geez, we had... Let's see, one more question here. No, I think that's it. Michael, what were you... I didn't mean to cut you off before. I think you were starting to compliment everyone.
I just wanted to say it's a real good book. It's a real good book, and I like it. And we should do more.
We should.
I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud
Thank you,
of it.
man.
And I'm so impressed by what everyone... It was beyond what I possibly could have hoped for, how well it came out. So it was worth all the pain and the time and the energy to make something that I can be really proud of.
And I think the only other thing that I wanted to say real quick before we sign off is this is not me making a promise about anything in particular, but people who have made it this deep in, you will want to stay tuned for our panel at San Diego about this time next month.
Oh, yeah.
We've got... I still don't know exactly what we're announcing of the secret stuff that we're working on, but like at least a couple of things. It's gonna be a big panel.
Tiago just asked, can we get a vote for Team Marshall and Team Nathan? You know, it's interesting because that panel is going to be right after issue 25 comes out.
Just a day or two
Interesting.
later.
Huh.
Interesting.
Okay. All right.
Interesting.
All right.
Mysterious. But I have a already publicly stated I don't vote on Nathan and Marshall. I can't bring
Matt
myself
doesn't
to
vote on
decide.
anything.
Yeah. He's part of the problem.
It's not true. I vote. It's mandatory here in Australia. It's illegal to not vote. You'll get me in trouble. I'll get a fine.
Last comment here on this Supermassive reprint that I just held up here. Common Sense says, I get the second print with new pages and index. It's a great way to introduce the Massiverse to my friend. He is a big Tokusatsu fan. That's fantastic. Honestly, that's why we did it. The whole point of reprinting Supermassive, when we all collaborated on this a year ago, it's like if you like Into the Spider-Verse, if you like a Doctor Who special, it's a fun, optimistic superhero adventure. It's a done-in-one story, 50 pages of story roughly. Is it 48? How many did we land on? Something like that. 48 pages of story in this thing.
50 pages.
And it introduces Inferno Girl Red and Rogue Sun for the first time. It's the perfect ash can to hand to anybody as like a sampler of, hey, this is what the Massiverse is and this is why it's cool. So be on the lookout for that at your local stores or from me at some of the conventions coming up this summer. San Diego, as Michael said, is coming up in, what is it, mid-July? Mid-July. If you're planning to go to San Diego, you should absolutely plan to be at our Across the Massiverse panel. We also have some stuff coming up, some really exciting stuff coming up with Rogue Sun. No One and the Who Is No One podcast we're full steam ahead. We just sent issue 4 to the printer. Can't wait for people to see this one come together. Am I missing anything else in the immediate?
No, I think that's pretty much everything.
And then Igor and I are doing some non-Massiverse stuff at the moment together. We're jamming on a big jazz series called Deep Cuts. And
that's jazz.
That was not jazz.
I'm pretty sure it was jazz, Kyle.
It was something. We'll cover that in issue 3. But this has been an absolute blast and something that Igor and Joe Clark and myself have been working on with 6 different interior artists, each doing 48-page stories. Each issue is a novella. We've been working on this for, years at this point, putting it together. And so issue 3 we're getting ready to go to print with. I could not be more proud of this as someone. I was a trumpet player for about 15 years of my life, and I don't get to play very much anymore, but it's such an important part of who I am, and Joe Clark and I grew up playing in bands together, and to be able to bring this book into the world in the way that we're doing it again, it feels like magic. It feels like jazz. So be on the lookout for that as well. Erica, where can people find you? Online, across new work. I see you posting some fun covers every once in a while here. What do you have going on?
I started to do some originals, and I started to collaborate with Cadence Comic Art. So sometimes I work on private commissions by them, through them, and some covers I can fit in between. They there can be found on Cadence, and I'm trying to balance my health and work.
And if people want to follow your work, where's the best place they can find you?
I think Instagram and Twitter are the platform I use more. So you can find me there. And I know probably most of you aren't Italian, but I attend some conventions here. And finger crossed, but I could be in New York this year.
Well, hey now, wouldn't that be an exciting convention to possibly be at with Inferno Girl Red? And I'm not hinting at anything whatsoever there. So, but Igor, Igor, tell the fine people what you're up to at the moment, where they can find you, and
Okay, and if I can just a little word about this book, the Inferno Girl Red
of
book
course.
one. If you readers, of course, if you are here, probably is the answer is yes. But if you like the animation, if you like the kind of the production work, like entertainment, like Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, or across the Spider-Verse, there's really a few moments inside the book that are really on that kind of style, and this is my declaration of love for that kind of animation and super effects. And the same on Supermassive, because there's specifically one moment that is really on that way. And my next things, waiting for the Massiverse things, and was waiting for the deep cuts that is monthly out in the libraries and stores. You can find me on July, I think, on a specific Flash story on DC Comics. On July and August is nightmares about characters, in this case for Flash. And monthly on Skybound, Summoner's Wars, that is I'm happy to color Luca Claretti, an Italian amazing artist that most of you knows, and I'm really happy. And just waiting for the next massive project.
It won't be long, I promise you. We have a lot
I'm
going
sure.
on.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Matt and Michael, we do a lot of these. I feel like people probably know where you're at, but give the fine folks a reminder.
Yeah, I'm at Matthew Groom on Twitter, 1T in Matthew. And most of the stuff I'm working on right now, I can't tell you about. Sorry,
Yeah.
super secret. So just be patient. Doing cool stuff. Just trust me, all right? Yeah, Michael?
I'm at M_Busuttil on Twitter. If I am not on Twitter, it is because I am here working on something.
Or recording a Ranger Danger podcast.
Which I do, to be clear, from this seat.
that's
So
fair.
it's this seat no matter what. But I may also be in New York later this year, hopefully. So we'll see if that happens. Be very exciting to meet some of you people in person.
Awesome. I am at Kyle D. Higgins on social. I don't use it all that much at the moment, but you can follow at Black Market NAR on Twitter, Instagram, etc. The bigger thing is the Black Market Narrative newsletter that we have. That is how we announce a lot of stuff that we're doing. It's also how we are doing some of our more limited, as I said, merch drops, variant covers, things like that. It's also how we are hosting this podcast. If you're listening to the audio version, the YouTube live stream is working in conjunction with that. But yeah, we've got a ton going on. I highly recommend subscribing to the newsletter, especially as we get into Catalyst War here. We have some plans for some really fun giveaways, some interactivity here, kind of with the team. And now's a great time to make sure that you're getting all the latest on the Massiverse directly to your inbox. So with that, I think we'll probably call it here, unless anyone has anything else. No?
No, been great.
All right. Well,
thanks everybody.
Hey, thank you all so much for doing this, for jumping in. And
thank you so much, guys.
The time zones, the time zones couldn't keep us apart. All right. I will talk to you all soon. And I'm going to hit end on the broadcast. Stay in the browser so the audio uploads here. And I'll see you guys in a second.